Hello everybody, it's Christy here. My mom asked me to speak to you guys today about a pretty intense topic. She asked me to talk to you about the 12th Imam. Now that might seem like a strange thing to sort of bring up at this point in time, but I think it's more important now probably than ever that we have an understanding about what it is that Islam teaches. Now this is a specific branch of Islam. It's called the Twelvers. They're a specific sect of Islam, and this is not something that you'll find just in sort of the average readings or the average teachings, and it's not the most common belief system, but some of the most important and influential Muslim leaders in the world are part of this group. Many years ago, the leader of Iran, a man named Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, he was president around the 2008 mark. He was a 12er, and he's the one who really started working feverishly, wanting Iran to be able to acquire the capacity for nuclear weapons. Now, obviously, that's been under the guise of desiring nuclear energy, but in reality, there's no doubt in my mind that, and the minds of most people who know anything about this topic, that the desire for Iran is to get hold of nuclear weapons, and there's a reason for this. Now, what I'm going to say is probably going to sound a little insane, but something I just want to sort of preface all of this with is that for us as Christians, we believe completely in who Jesus is. We believe that he's the Messiah. We know that that's the truth. We know that we're going to get raptured. We know there's different belief systems regarding eschatology or the end time studies. But in general, everybody kind of understands that we're going to live eternally. We're going to be in heaven with Jesus. We know that that's not going to look like people flying around on little clouds with halos playing a harp all day. It's a new heaven. It's a new earth. It's an upgrade, really, the ultimate upgrade system. And to us, it's completely, at this point, it's normal to believe that. And what I'm going to tell you about now, and I'm not going to be very long, but what I'm going to tell you about is a belief system. It's an ideology that has gripped the sect of people, and they believe it so much that they desire death more than they desire life. And I first learned about this many years ago because of Joel C. Rosenberg. I'm a huge fan of his. For those of you who haven't ever read his books, I encourage you to do so. He's absolutely incredible. And he wrote, a lot of what he does, he's really smart. He'll write specific things it's kind of in this narrative driven way. So that he wrote a book called The 12th Imam, and that's where I learned a lot about this. And that's when I started really looking into it and researching it. But the basic belief system is this: the 12ers believe that there is the final Imam. He is known as the Mahdi, he's known as the 12th Imam, he's known as the hidden one, and they believe that he is going to return to earth, establish an Islamic caliphate, which basically means an Islamic empire that rules the entire earth, puts everybody and subjugates everybody under Sharia law. And they believe that Jesus is going to return as his lieutenant, that every Jew will be killed immediately, that Christians and the kind of average Muslims will be given a chance to convert to this extremist belief system, and if they don't convert, they will die. But they believe that Jesus, because they do acknowledge him as a prophet, they believe that he will return and tell the Christians, hey, you need to convert. This is actually the true God, which is why I believe Islam is the spirit of Antichrist, but that's for another day. But this is what they teach. It's what they believe. They believe that he's going to return to earth, establish an Islamic caliphate, subjugate everybody under Sharia law, and that will be the eternal age of Islam. They believe that the way to summons him, because we know for us, and I'm paralleling it because this is eschatological, it's about an end time belief system. For us as Christians, we know what ours is. For Islam, this is what the specific branch is, the 12ers. And they believe that there is a way to summons the 12th Imam to return to the earth. And the way that you summons him is through global catastrophe. How would you acquire that goal? How would you reach that goal? The answer is pretty simple. It's nuclear war. There's never been a time on the earth before where this level of destructive capacity, this level of destruction is achievable until the invention of nuclear weapons. And so you might think, oh, well, who believes this? Well, the Grand Ayatollah, Ayatollah Khamenei, who is the leader, he's kind of like the Islamic Pope, right? So he leads 2.2 billion people, theoretically, in that he's the leader of Islam, which means he's more important than any president of any Arab nation. He's more important than any prime minister or king or prince of any Arab nation, any Muslim nation. He is the leader of the faith, and he is a 12er. The leaders of Iran are 12ers, and so there is 100%, no doubt in my mind, and again, when you go and really research this, you'll see it. They believe that this is their duty, their call, as to why they've been placed on the earth at this specific time, in this specific time frame. And obviously there's a real danger here, because we're dealing with an ideology that isn't afraid of death. We're dealing with an ideology that teaches people that the ultimate sacrifice you can make is to be martyred in the name of what you believe. And we see such it's not a parallel, it's a juxtaposition really, where so much of what's going on in the church now, it's a struggle to get people to live for what they believe. Whereas Islam, and specifically this branch of 12ers, they're not struggling to teach people to live this way. They're having an easy time doing that, and it's an indoctrination that's occurred from the earliest possible days, where they believe that this is their mission in life and their goal in life. And so the reason Iran is so dangerous, you know, you might look at other nations, you might look at Russia, you might look at these different places and go, well, you know, they're clearly, they have a goal in mind as well, and it's, you know, to rise again to being the sort of the leader of the world. And for them, I don't believe at all that it's ideologically driven. I believe it's nationalist. There's a nationalist movement behind that, and a desire for power. I think it comes down to a desire for power and a desire to be able to control. But the reason that the leaders of Iran, the reason that so many of these leaders are so dangerous is because their ideology is eschatological, meaning it's based on the end times. It's theocratic, meaning they bow only to their God, who is Allah, who we know is a false God, and it's genocidal. So we're dealing with this ideology that is incredibly dangerous, because it's eschatological, it's theocratic, and it's genocidal. And so they believe that every Jew needs to be wiped off of the earth and exterminated. They believe that Christians will be given a chance to convert, but they teach that death is better than life, and they teach that destruction is what is necessary in order to summons the return of their Messiah. And when you realize that that's what's going on, it kind of gives us a little bit of an insight as to why there's such a rush to acquire nuclear energy. It shows you why there's such a danger that the sanctions on Iran have been lifted. So much of what happens, we know that there's always a parallel in the spirit realm, and it's you can't fight this kind of ideological war with democracy, because it doesn't work. And so this is something that it's been concerning to me for many years. Joel Rosenberg authored the 12th Imam. I think it was back in 2012, and I've been watching this pretty closely since then. The specific teaching, the specific, I suppose it's a, I guess in our terms, it would kind of be a different denomination. It's just that this denomination, if you want to call it that, of Islam, is ultimately a death cult. You know, infamously, Yasser Arafat said many years ago when he was leading the Palestinian movement, he said to the woman, "Have 12 sons and give me 10 for your war." And it was because he believed so strongly in the movement that he was running, and they have no issue sacrificing people for the sake of the cause. And so this is an incredibly, it's a summarized version of the belief system. But there's a scripture that talks about the sons of Issachar and says that they were men who understood the times in which they were living. And I believe that our call as the end time church is to be like the sons of Issachar, who know and understand the times in which we're living. We can't stick our heads in the sand. We can't cover our eyes. At this point in time, at this point in human history, ignorance is not bliss. It's not enough for us to be unaware of what's going on. And I know it can be a scary topic, and I know that it can be something that people don't necessarily want to deal with or think about. But my encouragement to you is that none of this is taking God by surprise. He knows the end from the beginning. He's completely aware of all of these things. But I do believe that it's our responsibility as the end time church to be people who stand up, obviously who stand with Israel no matter what. But even with what's been going on in Israel since October 7th happened, and that absolute horrific tragedy, and it's still going on, you know, it's still the war has by no means ceased. And you just see this unfathomable rise of anti-Semitism all over the world. It's horrifying. On December the 27th, I work for Kim Clement's ministry, the House of Destiny, and I'm very excited because I'm going to be speaking with Esther Meshwe, Reverend Kenneth Meshwe's daughter, about all of this, about Israel, about the fact that South Africa has really stood and turned against Israel in a way that's kind of unparalleled and unprecedented. And she, we were talking on the phone the other day, and she was talking to me about how she knew it was going to happen. She knew the vote would go the way it was because God had showed it to her. But she's such a powerhouse, that woman, and I was so encouraged speaking to her. But we have to be people who understand what's going on. We have to be people who stand with Israel now like we never have before. And what we're seeing in Europe, the overtaking of European culture, the overtaking of European countries really by this Islamic movement. Nobody's safe from it. Nobody. And I really firmly believe that we have to be people who are aware. And it's not, like, I find it a particularly exciting topic, actually. I've always found this kind of thing completely fascinating, but we have to understand. And so many people don't understand what Sharia law is either. They don't understand the dangers of it. The total subjugation of women, women are seen as property and treated in that manner. Horrors are committed against female children and against women. It's a complete removal of all morality. It's a total removal. It's the opposite of everything that Jesus is and everything that he was when he lived here and who he still continues to be. And so this is a danger. This is something that we have to sort of open our eyes and ears to and really ask God to give us wisdom with what to do. But I just think it's so important that for all of us, especially those of us who proclaim to support Israel, especially those of us that are passionate about the scriptures, that are passionate about standing firm in these shaky times, we have to know who the enemy is. And please don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that the people are the enemies. I'm saying the spirit is. The spirit behind it is the enemy. It's the same spirit we see from ancient times. I've said it so many times, but Hitler was not the first one to come up with the final solution to the Jewish problem, as he called it. Haman was. We see that in the book of Esther. It's the same spirit taking on the form of a different human entity in a different millennia. So we see it in Haman, we saw it in Hitler, we see it now in Hamas, we see it with the 12ers, we see it all over the world. And we might just look at it and so many people kind of go, why does everybody hate the Jews? It's a spiritual thing. There's no logical rhyme or reason as to why this tiny group of humanity who makes up less than 0.5% of the world's entire population, why they would garner so much hatred. And it's because God said in Genesis 12, I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. He made it so clear that the Jews are his people, that Jerusalem is his city, and that Israel is his land. And although God inhabits the whole earth, the only place Jesus' feet ever touched was in Israel. And that's why it's to me, the most special place in the whole world. I obviously haven't been to the whole world, but of all the places I've been, I've never felt more at home than I did there. And this spirit that is inhabiting these human vessels is militant, it's unrelenting, it's determined, it's strong, it's patient. They've patiently been doing this for years and years and years, for decades now. And so, again, why are the 12ers so dangerous? It's because their ideology is dangerous, and they're not afraid of death. They run into it face first, feeling completely powerful because they so firmly believe what it is that they've been brainwashed with. And so this ideology is dangerous because it's eschatological, it's theocratic, and it's genocidal. And that's the thing I'd like you to take away from today. I know it's been a really quick teaching, really summarized. I would encourage you, if you're able to, go and read the book called The 12th Imam by Joel Rosenberg. If you want a deeper understanding of it, he's got a lot of great literature on it. There's other things that he's done as well, and I would really encourage you to read his stuff. But that book in particular really opened my eyes to see so many things. And I would really recommend you reading it if you're wanting to understand more of it. But it's dangerous. This is the biggest enemy of our time. I firmly believe it. And I also think it's the biggest enemy to face the end time church. Yes, we're fighting so many enemies on so many different fronts, but this is the militant one. This is the one that desires death. And this is the one that has shown that it won't be stopped by democracy. It certainly won't be stopped by pseudo-peace talks. And everything presented to them definitely is seen as some sort of paper tiger. They're not deterred, they're not afraid, because they so firmly believe what they've been taught. And so, again, pretty heavy topic, I know. Happy Wednesday. But I hope that that's given you a little bit of insight. Again, The 12th Imam by Joel Rosenberg, I would really recommend that you read it. If you can get your hands on it, on that book, it's fantastic. But thank you so much. I know this was kind of just like a little informational rant, but we know that we're the Church of Christ. We know we're the bride of Christ, and we know that our hope is built firmly on the unshakable, immovable rock who is Christ Jesus. And that is why we have a hope that is the anchor of our souls. It's because of who he is. So he's not surprised. He's not shocked. He knows exactly what's going on. We're the ones who need to open our eyes and realize that we're living in these times, and we need to be people who both know and understand the times in which we're living. I pray that you have a wonderful week. God bless you. And I pray that the peace of God, which goes beyond all understanding, would be the protector of your heart and mind this week and everything that you do.